LONGBOX CRUSADE presents Transformers Chronicles.
Hello and welcome back to Transformers Chronicles. I'm Delvin, aka the Dark Web. In case you're new to the show, welcome, and let me tell you what this thing is all about. We are going for a wild, crazy ride chronicling the awesome, wacky, and sometimes corny world of Marvel Comics, the Transformers, but I won't be going at it alone. Let's meet my chronicling companions. First up, we have the founder of the LONGBOX CRUSADE, the relative novice to the Transformers world, the seeker of the Matrix of Knowledge. His name is Pat Sampson, aka DJ Christatos. Welcome to the show, Pat. How are you doing?
I am doing good, Delvin. Here, I don't know if you can help me look around. I've lost some of my Madballs, and I can't find them anymore. You know, some of them got little balls, and they got little faces and all that on them, and I want to get them back again. I had them from last episode, but now I got some more, and I can't find them. So maybe you can help me find them.
It's mechanibles. They're a lot less cute than the Madballs. Like the Madballs were, they had the little grotesque faces, but you could bounce them around.
They bounce around. I have fun with them.
Yeah.
Can they bite?
Well, if you're a robot, yes. If you're human, no, you're okay.
Oh, good. And I'm safe then. Okay, cool.
You are safe, and I hope that you can find your Madballs at some other point in time. But for now, I have to introduce a guest to the show. She's a co-host of Ninjas and Bots, and her name is Layne. Welcome to the show, Layne. How are you tonight?
Hi, Delvin. Hi, Pat. I am honored to be here. I'm doing very well. Thank you.
We are honored to have you, and we have a couple of questions for you because you are new to the show and stuff. And the first one, I almost asked, she came on to a little bit earlier, like me and Layne were the first people to the show, and we were talking, and I almost asked, what got you into Transformers? I was like, wait, I gotta wait for the show. So now is the time. Layne, please tell us what got you into the awesome world of the Transformers.
I actually started with the cartoon back in the 80s.
You're not that old, huh?
I just turned 45.
What? I would not have guessed that.
But yep, I am old enough to have watched that. And then I went decades with a Transformers dry spell. I didn't have any older brothers or any close guy friends or family members to get me into comic books, so I didn't really get into that. I was a very late bloomer. I was in my, I think my friend took me to my first comic book shop when I was about 27 or 28.
That's a good friend.
Yeah, she's wonderful. But and she called the comic book shop shopkeep her dealer, so she's a good person. And she had Green Lantern rings for the guests at her wedding. So anyway, so I went, and then I had another little comic book dry spell, and I kind of got into my old love of Batman. I grew up with the 89 movie and the reruns of the TV show. And I started reading a couple comics and started getting a little bit more into it. And then I discovered the world of comic book podcasting. And this is a roundabout way of saying that Batman kind of led me to podcasts, which led me to discover John and Maggie's Rod Pod.
Nice.
And when they started talking about the IDW Transformers, I'm like, that sounds kind of good, actually. So I started reading that and really enjoyed the story. I was really impressed with, the depth of storytelling of those. And that's when John Wilson's like, hey, Layne, do you want to do a podcast about the Phase 1 IDW? I'm like, yeah, you don't have to twist my arm. So that's how that started. So.
Well, that's fantastic. That's a great story. And I got one more question for you. Who's your favorite Transformer or Transformers? I won't limit you to one.
It depending on what day of the week it is, it kind of changes, but I have a soft spot in my heart for Nightbeat because I loved old noir detective radio shows and the movies, the detective movies. And when I came across Nightbeat reading for my and John's podcast, I was like, I think he has to go in my rotation of the ones that I like. I also like Ratchet. Ratchet's a good dude, and Jetfire is a solid dude. So
Pat does not know Nightbeat yet.
No,
Pat hasn't met Nightbeat, but you will. You will, Pat. Just be patient.
I like that, though. I like, just like Layne, I do like the old kind of noir detective serials, audio dramas as well, too. And so this has got me interested. I can't wait. How long do I got to wait now?
Not very long. You're going to learn a little thing about something called the Matrix Quest. And it's going to titillate your senses, if you will. And Nightbeat is going to be a part of it. So that's awesome. I know you know Jetfire because that's very similar to the manga toys that you're a big fan of. Yeah, and I know you know Ratchet. And Ratchet's also going to play a pretty big role soon too. But I'm giving away things now, so I will politely decline to say anything more. But thank Layne for being on the show. The purpose of this podcast will be tackling all of Marvel's Transformers comics in order, starting with issue 1 and working our way to the series end at issue 80. We will answer any questions that are brought up to the best of our ability and see how these books we loved then as a kid hold up to our eyes as an adult now. This podcast is guaranteed to be, you guessed it, more than meets the eye. So Pat, Layne, let's find out how Cloudburst and Landmine get out of the kerfuffle that they're in right after the promo break.
The Transformers will return after these messages.
All autumn, the leaves change colors and kids go back to school. Pumpkin spice becomes its own food group, and little ghosts and goblins are on the streets begging for candy. But something sinister awaits. Back in the woods among those dead trees sits a foreboding, dilapidated man. You can't resist. You must go inside and return to
the House of Frankenstein.
Did you hear that? I heard that. What was it?
Listen to them. Children of the night. What music they make.
The Supermates podcast presents 4 spine-tingling episodes covering your favorite classic horror films featuring these iconic stars.
Griffin Dunn and David Naughton.
You're one of the undead, and I'm a werewolf. Yes, that's right.
Bela Lugosi.
I am Dracula. I bid you welcome.
Claude Rains.
You're crazy to know who I am, aren't you? All right, I'll show you.
And Peter Cushing.
I can hear his voice. It's in your own mind. It just has to be true.
Plus, your favorite superheroes versus classic monsters.
I understand your concern, Mr. Wayne, but I don't think you need to worry that Wayne Tech is responsible for this invisible man.
But I seem to remember last year hearing something about an invisibility project.
Visit fireandwaterpodcast.com or your favorite podcatcher for the 10th annual journey into terror at the House of Frankenstein.
Not available in pumpkin spice flavor.
We now return to the Transformers.
Welcome back. The issue we will be covering today is Transformers issue 53, and here is Layne with the cover description.
All right. So our cover artist for this issue is Jim Lee. The title is in white letters in front of a black and gray nondescript background. In the upper left-hand corner, we have the usual icon of Optimus Prime, our Lord and Savior. The main subject matter itself would do 17th century Baroque artist Artemisia Gentileschi proud. Not so much the scantily clad warrior babe standing front and center, but the fact that said purple-haired warrior babe is holding Cloudburst's head up by his hair, or a bundle of wires. And the predatory expression on the woman's face and the sword she wields tells us, the viewers, that while Cloudburst's head is still technically attached to his body, it might not remain that way for much longer.
And while I hold up my cover of Transformers comics showing my bona fides, I was very surprised to find that Jim Lee was on this cover. And I would imagine back in the day, heck, even now, I saw, ooh, Jim Lee, that's really cool. But Layne, what do you think about the cover?
It's definitely eye-catching. I like that there doesn't seem to be much wasted space, even though there's just this woman and part of Cloudburst. It takes up most of the cover, and she's saying next for some reason. I feel like it might be an homage cover to something. I'm not sure if it is to anything other than it is very reminiscent of that artist I had mentioned. I was an art history major, so I had to get my Jenna Love in there.
Yeah, you made that probably the most intellectual cover description.
She said some words that I didn't understand at all.
Pat, you weren't alone. I didn't either.
Well, she was one of the first female professional artists, and she liked dealing with an attack that she survived by often painting female characters beheading other male subjects. So,
okay.
Yeah. Anyway.
Okay. Pat, what do you think about the cover?
Well, one, I didn't know it was Jim Lee until you guys just said it right now. And I'm like, oh, wow.
Hey, Pat.
What?
It's Jim Lee.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
I just wanted to give you that feeling again. You know, that was a good feeling to have.
You can keep rewrapping the same Christmas present and giving it to him again.
Yeah, you can open it.
Ooh, piece of candy. Ooh, piece of candy. You keep going, Pat.
There was a reason why my eye was kind of drawn to this one as well, too. Not just because of the depiction on it with just the robot in his head, and especially when you look at that, the line work that's being done in his neck and his mouth is really detailed. Well, I guess I'm going to say really detailed and all that. So the dark back cover as well just really is different and really ominous or
ominous.
Ominous, yeah. See, I'm not good with the words. I'm trying to be all fancy now that Layne used big words.
If it makes you feel better, I'm a flash in the pan. I've already got it out there, and I'm just going to be not using English words very well. I'll make you feel better. So
that's okay. No, I learned something. See, that's the thing. I learned lots of different things in doing this. But yeah, I like it. I think the colors are great. We talk about the new logo, and I'm warming up to that new logo. Definitely. What's your thoughts, Delvin?
The new logo definitely looks good.
It works good.
It works very well with this background. And the old Marvel logo, still that's nostalgic, and Optimus Prime pointing, I will forever love that cover box, corner box. But yeah, the cover, especially if you were at 52 and at the end of 52, you've got Cloudburst and Landmine looking like they're about to be devoured by the Madballs, Mechanibals. And then you look at this cover and then there's like this woman holding up the robot, Cloudburst by wires, and he is just looking like he has gone through this. Like, wait, what? So there's that part of it that would intrigue me, but like the other part, obviously back in '89, Jim Lee wasn't the name that he is now. But I wonder, if I were to ever see Jim Lee at a Comic-Con or something like that, and I had this cover and handed it to him, I was like, man, could you sign this? I wonder, does he even remember drawing it?
Yeah.
And what I also wonder is man, now I wish I could, could somebody with a whole bunch of money beg Jim Lee to do one issue of Transformers? Oh my God. It would be so good. Because that everything that I have never seen Jim Lee draw anything bad. The man is just a freaking genius. So I would love to see what he would do if he got a whole book of Transformers. Maybe Daniel Warren Johnson could get him to draw maybe some odd issue of Transformers if he begged and pleaded. I mean, the latest, the current run of Transformers just won a couple of Eisners. Did y'all know that?
The Mirage one? Or the Image, I mean?
The Image run right now of Transformers won 2 Eisners, one for best series, one for best writer. It's been amazing. So who knows? Maybe he could. I mean, especially it's Image Comics. Oh my God. Now, see, I'm getting myself excited about something that's never gonna happen. So I will move us forward. And here on Transformers Chronicles, we rate things on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the lowest, 10 being highest, just like the tech specs on the original toys. And we will start with Layne. Layne, what would you rate this cover on a scale of 1 to 10?
I'm going to go a little high with this. It's really striking. The anatomy is just perfect. The line work. Yes, I like having backgrounds, but I think everything happening in the foreground makes up for that. I'm going to give it an 8.
Okay. What about you, Pat?
I think I'm going to match Layne with an 8 as well, too. I don't think having no background is really good. It really brings your eye to the two figures that are in it. Why the next? That I don't get. I mean, I guess you kind of get it. Like, she's definitely really superior and can take down a robot, obviously. But it makes you want to open it up to see what's actually happening here.
I'm with y'all. And only for the sake that it's Jim Lee, and Jim Lee is one of the modern day art masters. I'll give it a 9 because of that. But I in spirit, I'm with y'all on an 8. I'm just going to kiss up just a little bit and give it a 9 as well. And I see the next as just as we found out, the first one, which is her name, was part of a warrior race, kind of Amazonian, if you will. So I kind of took it as, she was just like, I took him down, who would be my next contestant type thing. But it could have been, take it or leave it thing. Like if it weren't there, I don't think I would have missed it, because in a way it could have even spoke more volumes just to see, like, clearly this is a powerful woman to have, bested a freaking robot, like she just did. So that might be intriguing enough, as it were. Okay. All right. Here is Pat with the credits for the issue.
Well, Delvin, I'm glad you asked. We are covering Transformers issue number 53. Its on sale date was February 28th, 1989, but its cover date was June 1989. Cover price was $1. Story is by Bob Budiansky. Pencils go to Jose Double. Inks, Dave Hunt. Colors is Nelson Yamtov. Letters go to Jade Modi. Editor is Don Daly. And the cover credits, as we mentioned before, is Jim Lee. And, 1989, I can see this is the start where we're starting to see all those, soon-to-be image creators at Marvel or DC, that they're just starting to grow here, and really interesting to see all that they've done in the past.
Yep.
This is all brought to you by Mike's Amazing World and tfwiki.net. Back to you, Delvin.
Thank you, Pat. Let's get right to the synopsis. The title of this issue was Recipe for Disaster. So as I mentioned in the intro, Cloudburst and Landmine are in a kerfuffle. Pat, that means a fuss, because they have been captured by Master Mouth and the Mechanibals. Despite putting up a fight, the two Autobots are about to meet their end, so Cloudburst uses his words to get them out of trouble. Sort of. Cloudburst's proposal, which Master Mouth accepts in spite of the protests of High Test and Throttle, the Mechanibals' robot seekers, is to get them ingredients which would make for a more succulent meal. The Autobots depart. High Test and Throttle follow them because they're binary bonded to two Decepticons, Darkwing and Dreadwind. But little do they know that Sky Lynx is still lurking and follows them to planet Phoemax. Phoemax is a planet dominated by Amazonian women, run by the first one, and the Autobots ask for crystals. Landmine wanted to fight, but Cloudburst instead chose reason. The first one listens, but puts Cloudburst through a series of physical trials to prove his merit, which he successfully navigates through. This creates the further problem of the first one deciding that Cloudburst, who has been in pretender mode all this time, should be her mate. And when Cloudburst reveals that he's really a robot, the first one literally lops his head off with a sword. This enrages Landmine, but he too chooses reason, and as a result, the first one sees the error of her ways, repairs Cloudburst, and they leave, only to be ambushed by Darkwing and Dreadwind. But Sky Lynx saves the day, and the Autobots honor their deal with the Mechanibals. It's worth noting that the Autobots did not take the microchips they were after when they found those chips were only available because they were literally cannibalized by other robots, and that the Autobots rapped to the Mechanibals that High Test and Throttle were bonded to robots this entire time, causing the Mechanibals to chase after them. So let's talk about the book. On Transformers Chronicles, we bring something up from the book, starting with goods, bads, highs, lows. We have a discussion. We will let Layne talk first, since she is our guest. Layne, what do you have to say about the book?
Don't try to catfish first one.
No, not a good idea.
Yeah, she didn't take that very well. Who knows how long she'd been looking for the perfect mate, and she finally finds someone like, all right, this is the person who is worthy of my wiles. And it's sometimes electronics just went out.
You know, isn't that the way it is? You know, you find somebody, you think they're the right one, and then they turn out to be a robot. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, happens to me a lot.
Stupid bots. But yeah, she moved very decisively. It seemed like on the cover she might, drag that out a little bit. Nope, off with his head. She's done.
Yeah, I mean, she has to be a powerful woman. And they set that up well, at least in that they showed when just normal Nebulon's humans showed up to the planet that the men towered over them. So these were not a small race of humanoids. So sure enough, like when the first one got upset, it stood to reason that she could use her sword and knock off a robot's head. But still, that said, she had to be pretty powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Pat, what you got?
This issue was a lot going on in it. I think it was really packed with a bunch of different things for the story. Way more than the last issue with the Mechanicables. And so we see the end of, what's going to happen next. And then they get out of it. Then they go on this little story, these two go on a little adventure trying to, I guess, get some recipes so then they can make themselves taste better. Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, you guys can get away. Why don't you just leave? And why go back for Barrick? But
Virgo. I mean, it had to, because they're Autobots, Pat. They're good guys.
I know. They
good guys. They honor deals. They hold up to their word and stuff. That's what good guys do.
Honor system. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I get it, and which was a good story because it not only plays in with the first guy. Oh man, I'm so bad with their names.
Which ones, Cloudburst or Landmine?
Cloudburst, right? Because he's just the honorable guy.
He's the reasonable one. Yeah.
Landmine's the kind of guy who will go off, but you got the two, oil and water kind of together like that, and then the next thing he's rubbing off on him, which he does. But then it also changes the first one as well, and then I like. As Layne was saying, that she apologizes for, hey, everybody in my kingdom, sorry, I made a mistake. I'm going to, be really cool about it. And a good story overall. And then in the end, the bad guys get their comeuppance and all that. So I only wish that, when you mentioned Master Mouth and the Mechanicables, I would have seen them in their hidden years.
I get where you're going with that. And when she was talking to her people, she's like, I lost my head. Well, he lost his head. Hell. Yeah. Okay, let's go back to let's see. Do I have anything to add? I think there were twists and turns, but like I appreciated the loquaciousness of Cloudburst. Like he had a way of using his mouth to get them out of pretty bad situations. Mm-hmm. There couldn't be more of a bad situation than, we're about to get eaten by these huge friggin' mechanical monsters, that eat robots like us. And so he had to get to talk. It's like, I could think of something that would make us more of a tastier meal. I give them credit for that because they did try. What was the smart thing to do is like, hey, if someone is about to eat me, I'd want to fight too. And then, they did try to fight, but then they wound up surrounded. So after they were surrounded, they wound up being, we got to resort to some last option. He's like, look, I am thinking on my feet here. I'm coming up with some way that's just going to keep us alive. And thankfully for him and Landmine as well, it worked. And then also it turned out that their initial good deed wound up helping things out too, because they helped out Sky LYNX. And if they wouldn't have helped out Sky LYNX could not have come back to them and saved the day. And they wouldn't have been able to say, even though like it seemed like Bob may have like he switched the deal a little bit. It's like, okay, yeah, you guys came back with the ingredients, and so we'll let you go. Like it was a little bit different than what started the issue. But but the out is like, oh yeah, I got some news for you. It's like, yeah, those guys are robots, and we're gonna go into this thing. Yeah, see you, bye. Before you change your mind and remember that you're supposed to eat us. So, so that turned out to be okay. But all that said, I will throw it back to Layne. Layne, do you have something else to bring up?
Just on Starlinks a bit. Give him kudos for one being as sneaky and. His ability to eavesdrop without being seen, considering his size. So good on him for that. I had read this issue because I was doing a little bit of catch up. So I didn't read the issue before this until right before we started recording. So I didn't realize that he had been captured beforehand. Yeah. So it comes to a nice full circle here. I know of Starlinks. I don't know a lot about him yet. I've barely come across him.
Sky LYNX came around. They introduced him in issue 44, I believe. No, he was there before. Excuse me. He came around in the 30s, like issue. Don't hold me to it. 32 or so. Because what happened was Wheeljack was tired of Grimlock and his oppressive leadership, and so it's like, hey, I got a guy that can help us out here. And so Sky LYNX comes onto the picture. And like Sky LYNX sort of lends a hand, but like he winds up getting caught in a situation where he was harboring some Earth kids, and the Dinobots.
Oh, that's the one. Okay, right. I remember that.
So he was introduced then, and so he's had an interesting arc. And I give Bob a ton of credit for keeping that continuity pretty straight. And that, like, the last that we had seen of him before this adventure is that Sky LYNX had dropped off the kiddos back to planet Earth, and they made it safe. And so it's like, okay, yep, happily. And then he was chased off by, the media horde. And he's like, fine, I'll leave. Like, screw this. But like, then we find out a little bit more of the story that him and like Burko was like, I don't really like this Earth thing, but I like you, dude. Can I hang with you? And they're like, yeah, let's go cruising the galaxy or whatever. And they wound up at this place, and then Sky LYNX got captured. So it's probably much more funner to go back and read the books, but that was as quickly of a summary as I could come up with. Pat, do you have something for round 2?
Yeah, I'll just say I did like the Sky LYNX in this one as well, too. Kind of remind me of like your dog, and he comes and saves you later on. That's what Sky LYNX kind of reminds me of.
Yeah.
I like that as like, all of a sudden, next thing you know, the guys are in trouble, and they're just about to get it, and all of a sudden, next thing, the dog tromps on them or grabs them and just throws them away. I thought it was really good, and the way you say it and remembering the story of Sky LYNX, Bob really did a good job of just kind of keeping him there for a little while, and then you pull him away, and then you got some intrigue about him and what's going on. So hopefully we see a little bit more of him down the road as well too. I'm hoping, but I don't know. But we'll find out.
Yeah, we'll find out. Like right now, Pat, I'm gazing into my crystal ball. I'm saying outcome hazy. But but I have been wrong before, right? You're like, hey, are we going to see this person again? I was like, nope. And then it came back. It's like, oh, dang, I forgot. It's been 35 years since I've read these books. And so I could be wrong about Sky LYNX. So, like, we'll keep our fingers crossed. Because Sky LYNX is a cool character. Think about it. Like, what's up, Layne?
Oh, I was going to say he kind of reminds me, and I don't know I can't remember when the movie came out, but I've been sitting here thinking about him in terms of Falcor from the Neverending Story, and I wonder if there's I don't know the time frame, so I don't know if there was any inspiration from the movie for him, but anyway, sorry, I think I jumped in here.
He's a very unique Transformer in that it was 2 Transformers. One was like a pterodactyl and one's like a panther. and then they transform into like this space shuttle. Like SkyLynx is a very unique transformer in that way, and that I don't think they ever did kind of like an amalgam transformer like that before or after. So super unique in that way. And I don't know whether or not there's a tie to the Never Ending Story, but you never know what the listeners might think. And because we've had listeners reply in and tell us stuff. So we can be patient and wait a couple of weeks and see if somebody smarter than us comes back and tells us something. I'm trying to think, like, have we missed any element of this story? It was relatively self-contained. Pat, you came off mute, so you must have some more things to say.
Oh, yeah. The story, it's the typical, they go to a different planet. The men and the women are separated in certain ways, which I kind of found interesting in that they, the guys were locked out and the girls had the inside of this nice volcano area and that, but it made sense. Like you said, kind of Amazon feel to it. But I thought it was really good and interesting to see how that first one, kind of led her leadership style, and then definitely coming around at the end of it. So,
yeah, it reminded me. I don't know if either of you have watched Rick and Morty or not, but like it reminded me of Gazorpazorp, like the planet that they went to that was run by women, and like the men were like pretty much just brutes, just sitting there, like just really just and their only purpose was breeding purposes. Like otherwise, like the paradise belonged to the women who were able to take care of it. That's the first thing I thought of was Rick and Morty. So I wonder if the creators of Rick and Morty happen to read this issue of Transformers or not, because you can tell like they're the first one, and probably by extension the rest of the Phymaxian women have a very low opinion of women, because they basically said if we let them in, they would destroy all of it. Like, who am I? Like, I mean, in my head, I'm like, what do you mean? Guys wouldn't do that. How do I know what a Phymaxian dude would do? I have no idea. Maybe they are a bunch of freaking brutes. So it was definitely an interesting philosophy and juxtaposition. The thing that I'd be kind of interested in, I don't know if you remember this or not, Pat, last episode, Derek talked about how in later iterations of the Pretenders that they actually were like more humans. And so that would have been interesting if they applied that to this one, where like even like where Cloudburst's human form was more human and could possibly mate and or interact with the first one. But that's not the case. It's like, no, you don't understand. I'm a robot. Robot clunk. But I don't know. Like maybe that would have been a little bit too weird for what essentially is a kid's book.
I want to know how he just had these like kind of suit underneath his normal armor and all. I thought it was just like an armored shell that they wore, and then next thing you know, he's got this kind of suit on. After she says, "Oh, you can take off your armor and relax a little bit," he's like, "Okay, I'll do it." Where did he get the suit from?
Well, I'm just assuming that's a part of the ruse, as it were, or of the Pretender shells. Like, yes, they usually have this armor on, but you could take the armor off to get more of a humanoid type form. Like, I would kind of assume that Bob took a few liberties there, and I don't mind those liberties, because it seemed like, as Derek mentioned last issue, they went even further with that concept.
It made me think and feel like like he was really kind of human on the inside, inside. So I was like, oh, I was starting to get to this, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, then he splits in the middle. Like, oh, that's weird.
Talking about the Phymaxian structure, the political structure here, what is it about a matriarchal society that makes people think immediately the women will become the man hating, the man killers, and everything will be barbaric and horrible? And it just seems it's like a trope that's been around for decades and decades. Like they think of a woman in charge, and like, this is the extreme that we're going to jump to because a woman in charge is just so out there. And so that was my Yeah, that was my one hang up mainly on this issue, and especially when Hugh mentioned earlier, she lost her head. She's like, I let my emotions get the best of me. I'm like, of course you did. So, yeah.
But the only but that I will add to that would be that I agreed with what you mentioned earlier, in that she's like, her mentality seemed to be that men are ineffective, brutish numbskulls.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy turned out that, hey, the first thing he did, he's like, I don't want to fight. I want to reason. And she's like, go on. And then she's like, okay, well, fine, Mr. Reasoner. Let's see, what happens when we put you through these trials. And it's like, oh, this is a man of reason and action. Like, oh, I could work with that. I could do something with that. And we're not going to talk about some things that she was thinking about. But so I at least think that it was established enough that she had reason to be upset.
Yeah, like you said, we don't know the Themaxian society enough. Like maybe, like you said, the men were brutish and would destroy everything if they came in. So yeah, we'll no prize that.
Okay, I'm glad that you can accept my no prize for that. Because I would definitely. I'm not a woman, but I would not have been happy. It was just a simple stereotype of like, they like say she just immediately revealed their robots. Like, I don't like robots and I'm mad. Boom. Like, no, they at least established a little bit. And Bob, for what it's worth, he's pretty good with that when it comes to not only his robot characters, but his human characters too. Where he'll do like throughout the issue, he'll at least plant a seed or two or not, to when it comes to like a big action, that action has some justification to it. What you got, Pat?
No, I would just agreeing with that. That I think that she, I guess, definitely kind of had the right to kind of do what she did because she got duped.
Oh yeah,
and I'm not that he was really trying to do it at all, but because if I was a robot in disguise, I would kind of want to stay in disguise.
Particularly if, their whole thing is being a pretender. They're supposed to pretend to be a human.
Yeah.
Now, that said, like, I don't know if back in issue 40, that's when the pretenders came about. Holy crap, my memory is awesome today. So back in issue 40, when the pretenders came about, I do not know how much Ethan Zachary had in designing them. So, and I guess I'm just saying, I don't know how human they are, if you get my drift.
Yeah.
There, like, I don't know if this dude is pretty much a Ken doll or whether he is like more like, say, Data from Star Trek.
That's exactly what I was thinking of. Tasha are taking a little the episode where they all felt drunk.
Yeah. Yeah. Data's like, I am anatomically correct. It's like, oh my.
Come with me.
Anyway, do either of you have anything else to add about the story, or can I move us on?
I'll just say how much I really enjoy Jose Delbo's art in this too, man. Just all the crazy stuff going on in this. He makes it look really good.
Yeah, there's a lot of like really crazy, like you said, the Madballs characters, and then also like really well drawn human characters, and yeah, I would agree with that.
You got to think he's probably like happy to draw humans, like since he's had to draw a crap ton of robots since he has been on like as full-time artist. I'm gonna miss Jose. Like we got a couple more issues to enjoy. Of his artistry. And before we move on to other pastures, I will not say greener pastures, because regardless of whether we think these up and coming artists, are, great or whatever, like it is no doubt about it that Jose Delbo, if he's not one of the greatest Transformers artists, he is a absolute unsung hero of the universe, because it couldn't have gotten here without a lot of his stuff. So anything else, lady, gentlemen? In that case, now's the time for us to talk about Who Had the Touch, where we talk about which character in the book stood out the most. Autobot, Decepticon, or human. We're going to go with Pat first this time. Pat, who had the touch to you?
Well, I'll go with the obvious on this one is Cloudburst. I think with his words that he uses and definitely thoughts on how to get things done without, going to violence or just brute force of anything. I thought he handled it well, and it definitely rubbed off onto others around him.
To good effect, because even after Cloudburst was taken out of action, Landmine was like, I'm about to fight. Like, no, that's not it. Let me reason. So what do you think, Layne? Who had the touch to you?
Well, I picked up with Landmine. He heeded Cloudburst's advice to use reason. It might not have been the best time. Like when your friend's head is dangling from someone's fist, that might be the time for action. But he's like, he was introspective enough to say, you know what? Cloudburst said that I can use my words instead. And he must have a silver tongue because he changed the mind of the first one. So yeah, it started out with Cloudburst, and then his wisdom was received by Landmine, and he was able to share that wisdom as well.
Yeah. It was like Landmine was going to go all Rambo on her, but then he chilled.
But I'm going to go with SKY LYNX. Only because I like both of your choices, but SKY LYNX played an important role in it too. Because even though they didn't mention it, I'm going to presume that when SKY LYNX went free, probably the first thing that he did was look for his pal Burko. Then when he couldn't find Burko, or maybe he saw Burko captured, but he sort of just lingered around, and sure enough, he was able to see like where the Decepticons leaving. It's like, okay, now let me follow them real quick because they're the ones that capture me anyway. Let's see what's going on. And then he found out something that he didn't know, that they were also robots. So he had a good part to play in it all, but I think the other two had a great part to play in it too. And if we talked about the touch, then someone had to be out of touch. We talk about the character that was the worst in the book and just kind of milled around a literal paradise in the segment called Less Than Meets the Eye. Layne, do you have anyone that was less than meets the eye to you?
Yeah, I wouldn't put this person as the worst in the book. And what we discussed earlier may have changed my mind a little bit, but I had initially chosen the first one. I'm all about women in positions of power, but not at the cost of subjugating people. But we gave her a little grace, a little leeway. So I'm not as sold on that as I was when I first came into this. And she, like a good leader, when she was introduced, was given new information, she changed her way of thinking. That's a sign of a good leader. So I will say she's not more than meets the eye or less than meets the eye. We'll just say she meets at the eye. We'll go there.
I got you. I'm reminded now of another song by a dude called Rag and Bone Man, and there's lyrics from the song and said, "Though we all try, we're all one step from grace." So we all got a little bit to learn for sure. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go with the Decepticons on this one because they had a good thing, and all they had to do is not be greedy. They're like, and they even said it, and I bought the explanation. They're like, we're robot hunters for these mechanicals, but we're really Decepticons. And so we got a chance to do some ne'er-do-well stuff with the Autobots. And so we got to do it. I can't blame them for doing something that's literally in their nature, but it cost them big time. And now it's for all we know, the mechanicals are still chasing them as a result of their greed. What do you think, Pat? Who was less than meets the eye to you?
I was thinking the same thing, the two Decepticon guys, that just because they were really conniving and, like I mentioned before, they finally got what they deserved and were being chased. So I don't know. I'm also wondering, too, are we going to see those guys again maybe later on?
Same thing. Crystal ball reads the same. A little bit murky because, heck, at this point, Pat, if you
ask
can believe
again
it
later.
Right. Exactly. Ask again later. We got just over 2 years left of Transformers story. So there's not going to be a lot of time for a lot of different characters, but we can get to that in a second. We can get that in a second. Were you through, Pat, or did I didn't trample across you rudely or anything, did I?
No.
Good. I try not to be a rude host. I try to be a polite host. All right. Now is the time for the overall ratings of the book. Same thing as before, 1 to 10 to talk about how we felt about this issue. We will go to the lovely Layne, and she will give us a rating for Transformers 53.
I went with a 7. I thought the art was wonderful. We won't talk about the coloring. I know that's an issue. I don't know if it was a style of this era. I haven't come across it in other comics, so we'll just leave that there. I've heard that issue brought up a time or two in the past.
Here? No.
And at first I thought the story was just, like, oh, okay, we have the Amazonian women. It's a little bit cliche, but it's fun. But they left little seeds of, okay, Landmine was able to change his mind about things. The first one is able to change her mind about things. SkyLYNX can't. Things kind of connected nicely. And so, yeah, I give it a 7. A good solid 7.
Okay. I don't know where I am on this. I mean, it was a good story. And instead of being a 1 and done, it was kind of a 2 and done, even though it did connect back to the Transformers as a whole, because Optimus Prime sent them on a mission. That mission was to get microchips. They did not succeed at that mission, even though the reason that they didn't succeed at that mission were for very humane reasons. Like if you think about that, like, that's very gross what the Mechanibals are doing. We are eating robots and like spitting out the chips and like selling them. Think about it that happened with him. I don't want to think about it. That's just terrible. So it did link to the main story, but at the same time, it allowed Bob to showcase the Pretender Transformers and then also reintroduce the Target Masters, were they Target Masters? No, Power Masters. There we go. In Darkwing and Dreadwing. So good story. Kind of a 1 and done, 2 and done type, but still overall solid. I'll give it an 8. I'll land on an 8 with that. Pat?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I was in a toss up between the 7 and an 8 with that, and I can understand where Layne's coming from because just if she didn't get a chance to read all the build up to this one, you and me having that build up and going back to some other stories that SkyLYNX, this is like you said, a continuation of SkyLYNX's story over how many different issues that we've seen him in. And so yeah, I liked that there's some threads that ended, but also there's still some threads that are open. Like, are we going to see do those Dreadwing guys or whatever? Or do we see them again? What are they going to do now that they didn't get the chips? Yeah, they freed a bunch of robots or bots. Now where are they going to get their stuff? That Optimus Prime, they still have their friends that they need to save yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Did you give it a rating, Pat?
8. I gave it an 8. I met with you on an 8. Yes.
Okay. I was like, wait a minute. I heard very good dialogue. I didn't know if I heard a number or not. Okay. All right. I got the number now. All right. Couple of 8s and a 7. And I think that's a good average, very much like the cover. Like, I think we all help the story in a good regard. And I think that's a very good place as right now, the overall tapestry of the Transformers is they are still recovering from the events of issue 50. Layne, did you happen to read Transformers 50 by any chance?
I did, but if you're asking for recall, it wasn't that like part of a 4.
It was a part of the Underbase saga, and it was the end where Starscream got all the powers, and a whole bunch of Transformers went kablooey.
And I didn't read those other 3 that went with it, so yeah, because I was rushing trying to catch up on where we are here. So I'm just like, I'll just pick up what I can.
Oh, no. The reason why I just mentioned it was like, this is just still fallout from issue 50. Issue 50 was that big as far as the effect of the Transformers. And we're going to be feeling the effects of that for some time to come. But for now, we can and never will leave you without the segment of the show called Transformers Spotlight. I'm going to talk today about Cloudburst. His allegiance is Autobot, subgroup Pretenders, and his function is space defense. His motto is, you can't tell a bot by his cover. That's true enough. Cloudburst feels at home within the confines of his Pretender shell. His shell gives him the confidence to be smooth, charismatic, and tough as nails, except in the presence of large organic females with broadswords. However, what his charming Pretender shell hides is nothing more than a nervous, dull, and meek little robot who feels inferior to all those around him. His friend Landmine often tries to egg him on, provoking him to, quote, come out of his shell, unquote. But Cloudburst still tends to hide behind his intelligence and within his mask of bravado. Here's what his rank stats were on the card. Strength is a 7, intelligence 8, speed 10, endurance 7, rank 6, courage 8, firepower 8, and skills 7. The accessories that came with Cloudburst, if you were lucky enough to have the toy, he had the 2-piece Pretender shell, he had a helmet, he had a belt, he had a Thunderbolt laser pistol, and he had a lightning whip. Lightning whip sounds like something that the first one would have had, but I digress. The Transformers Cloudburst Pretender shell resembles a human in a red and gray armored spacesuit, armed with his blue lightning whip and red Thunderbolt laser pistol. The shell's helmet and belt are also removable and used to help lock the two halves of the shell together. So that's kind of your answer, Pat. So that the toy actually did, you could detach some of the stuff. The shell splits to reveal Cloudburst's inner robot, which transforms into a red and black interplanetary star cruiser. The robot can wield the Thunderbolt laser pistol in both modes, although Cloudburst's packaging bio implies that it functions as a particle beam cannon in cruiser mode. Cloudburst's arms have small fake wheels on the shoulder and forearms, implying his cruiser mode lands by folding up the wings, allowing the arms to fold down and the wheels to touch the ground. The toy was released concurrently by Takara as Phoenix, with no noticeable differences between the two. We will be seeing Cloudburst a decent amount in the near future, so I hope you like them. Thanks to tfwiki.net and tfu.info as always for the wonderful information that I very shamelessly cribbed, and we will go to a promo break.
The Transformers will return after these messages.
Do you like the Transformers?
Yes.
Do you like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
Do you like IDW Comics?
And comic book podcasts?
Then come check out Ninjas and Bots. Each week we look at an issue of Transformers
or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from their IDW Comics incarnation. We drop episodes every Saturday morning.
Just like the cartoons we loved as a kid. The show can be found on your favorite podcatcher and at johnreadscomics.com.
See you then.
We now return to the Transformers.
Now's the time for transmissions where we heap praise upon the audience for listening to us. And we are going to talk about social media shares and retweets from Transformers Chronicles episode 50, where we discuss Transformers issue 50. And we also had an interview with Bob Budiansky in there, which we were very happy to have him. So once again, Bob, you happen to be listening to this, man, we greatly appreciated you being on. It was an absolute pleasure. I'm going to quickly read the social media shares and retweets. Coffee and Comics blog, our good friend Clint Robeson. Serpy Matt, our good friend and Crusaders Club member Matt Passo. And Scotty Cameron. And we had quite a few comments. And Layne, if you like, you can start off with the first one, please.
All right. Well, our first comment is from Scotty Cameron. Loved opening with an interview with none other than Bob Budiansky himself. I love hearing from a legend and how he was able to help make Transformers the iconic franchise it is today.
We are forever grateful to Mr. Budiansky. Like, who knows where he came up with the idea of all of this stuff. You know, even though it was the 80s and, you know, it may have, you know what, I'm not going to I'm not going to, say what libations that he may have been partaking of. I have no idea. He could be absolutely straight edge as far as I know. Pat, you want to read the second?
Yeah, I'll take the next one from Keith Black Trudeau. And Keith says, amazing issue. Biggest one of the entire run. Not my favorite, but it's top 5 for the body count alone. And that was a lengthy issue. I think the biggest one we've had to read in a while with Transformers, and the body count was definitely high.
Yeah, and normally it's pretty tacky to talk about your body count, but not in this case. Next comment up is Matt Passo. He says, great episode and awesome interview with Mr. Budiansky. I will say, Jonathan Schaefer-Hames, it's awesome to hear someone else love Sleepwalker. I wasn't aware until this past weekend, picked up a sketch card that an artist had already done, that Bob had a hand in the creation of the character. I always loved the look as a kid, and now I'm going to have to pull out my complete run and do some reading. It's awesome as always if, like you hear a podcast or something and it just stokes that passion to make you want to go read some more comic books. That's what it's all about. You want to read the next one, Layne?
Yeah, this next one's from Herbert Fung. Awesome interview with Mr. Budiansky. Since Maggie expressed disappointment of the island base not being in the issue, I'm posting this makeshift replica to make up for it. And he includes a picture. It looks like an empty Big Gulp cup on top of a flattened globe. I'm not sure exactly what I missed, but it looks fun here.
So a part of issue 50, the Decepticons had this island base that was disguised as a big interplanetary rocket. And
is that terrarium looking thing going through space? Yep. Okay.
Yes. and so it wound up getting destroyed, and I don't believe we'll see it anymore. But Herbert has done a lot of cover recreations for the show with Transformers. And in this case, he branched out and did that, which was really, really cool. Herbert, as always, man, thank you so much for your contributions. They are absolutely awesome.
Very, very creative. I like his creativity on these. I'll take the next one from Kevin Clark. Kevin says, spoke with Bob Budiansky briefly at RetroCon a few years ago. Told him that one thing I appreciated about his work was his ability to set a mood. As an example, I quoted the first caption from his Headmasters limited series. The planet Cybertron is a wound that will not heal.
Ooh. And later, Linkin Park stole that, in the song Crawling. That's an absolutely made up fact. All right, we're going to move on to Spotify. We had a comment from a gentleman named Jim. Thank you so much, Jim. You're the first one besides Scotty and the one that has all the weird letters that we haven't figured out who that is yet. So thank you so much. By all means, any Spotify listeners, leave comments. We want to read comments. And it's awesome that you're able to reach us from Spotify. Anyway, Jim says, another great show. Thanks for the awesome reviews and opinions. Can't wait for the next episode. We can't wait for the next episode either, which, by the way, I'm about to talk about. But real quick, I got to do the boilerplate. If we happen to miss a few comments, we apologize. It's a good problem to have, but we don't want to forget to recognize anyone. If you ping us on Twitter, X, Facebook, Instagram, wherever, we will correct it in the next issue. That's the show, everybody. Please come back and join us for next episode where we discuss Transformers issue 54, where we're introduced to the littlest Transformers yet, the Micromasters. Not Micro Machines, Pat. I can already hear the joke being generated, because I thought of it too. You know what? Do it anyway. If you'd like to hear more from us, the LONGBOX CRUSADE, y'all, we are everywhere. Most podcatchers, including Apple Podcasts and Spotify, if you look for LONGBOX CRUSADE, you will find our podcast network. Same thing, if you look Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, look for LONGBOX CRUSADE. We are there. Patreon, we have a Crusaders Club. You can join us for only $1 a month. We are grandfathered in, and we would love to have you. We have a YouTube channel too. Please like and subscribe. We have a lot of content on there. Like most of our podcasts wind up there, and we do live streams as well. I host one called Come Out to Play. Jared, he does a couple at this point. Best Under 5, where he does talks about the movies or any movie that has a IMDb rating of 5 or under. He does that with Black Belt Chris.
Yep.
So like we have a lot of cool stuff on the show that we would love for people to go and check out. So do that. And we also have t-shirts as well. You can find at teepublic.com. If you go there and search for Longbox Crusade, you will find our stuff. We have a couple of Transformers Chronicles stuff there. A little Grimlock Cray Cray shirt that I got. We got the one with our cool Transformers Chronicles logo that we had done. So we would love for you to go and sport some of our swag. There's even a voicemail you can leave us voicemail comments on 707-532-5269. That is 707-532-LBOX.
Pick up the phone.
Pick up the phone. And you can even email us at contact@longboxcrusade.com. We're saying our goodbyes now, and we have to say goodbye to Layne for now. We're sad to see you go, but we were so happy that you came onto the show. Layne, please take this opportunity now to tell us where you can be found out on the social medias and maybe podcast world too.
You can find me on Facebook. I have a page that I don't follow. I don't update very much. It's the Dark Knight Pros podcast. I've started podcasting that again. I took a couple years hiatus. I got a little burnt out on the editing. That happens sometimes, but I've also been podcasting with John Wilson, and that's kind of he lets me do the fun part of the podcasting. I do the talking, and then he does the editing. But we do one called Ninjas and Bots, and we talk about the IDW Transformers and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. We have a lot of fun with that. And if you're also into Ninja Turtles, we also have started with Clinton. We started the Turtle Power Hour, where we discuss the Mirage Ninja Turtles and the Archie Adventures. So, yeah, a couple different places.
Awesome. We haven't had John on the show yet, have we, Pat?
We have.
We have?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I believe so, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And he's also done a Crusademas with us as well. He brought one of the
I remember that. I don't remember on the show, so I need to have him back on the show.
Way back though, in the 30s,
maybe.
Yeah, we have to get John back again.
I can remember the issues. I can't remember who I podcasted with. Thus, end up the string of having a sharp memory. Pat, please tell us where you can be found.
Well, Devin, I'm glad you asked. You can find me on the X at Christatos01. Where can you be found, Devin?
Twitter X DEE_RAY1977 and Instagram at Delvin Ray. See you all next time. And remember, freedom is the right of all sentient beings till all are one.
Till all are
one.
You got the touch. You got the power. Yeah!
All songs, song clips, and characters discussed are copyright of their respective copyright holders, and no infringement is intended, and it is for entertainment purposes only. We are just fans that like to share our love of comics.
I'm smiling, Layne. Every time that I hear the name Layne, it's making me think of the co-creator of Alice in Chains. And I'm a pretty big Alice in Chains fan, so love their music.
Yeah, I don't know enough about them to be able to name the members or many of the songs, but whenever I hear them come across the radio, it's just
Layne, I believe Layne Staley and Jerry Cantrell, those are the two main founders of it. Layne unfortunately has passed away, to no one's surprise, due to a drug overdose, because he literally had a song called Junkhead, where he sang about being a junkie. Their harmonies were just so unique. Pat, you know a little bit about Alice in Chains? Anything?
I know some Alice in Chains. I don't know really some of the backgrounds, but yeah, definitely enjoyed the music.
Yeah, I found out about Alice in Chains when I was in college. A buddy of mine, Derek, gave me a Alice in Chains Unplugged CD and said, if you like this, you'll like Alice in Chains. And I listened to it and I liked it, and he was not wrong. I definitely did like a lot of Alice in Chains.
Was the first album Dirt?
I don't know whether that was their first one, but Dirt wasn't. I mean, oh my God. Just as grungy and dark of an album as you could possibly have, but it was so good. If you're just in that right mindset, Oh.
Is that the album that what is it? Rooster is on?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Oh my goodness! I mean, Rooster's amazing. So
yeah.
I to take a
welcome
joke.
to Alice in
Yeah,
Chains.
to take a joke from Jared. Welcome to Alice in Chains, cast. I'm your host, Delvin. All right, let's get us back because I'm the one.
We're down in the hole right now.
Down in the hole, baby. That's right. All right, I will get us started back.